Yo. Ultimate cuteness incoming. Fuck, he's cute. How I get anything done with that level of adorability in my life, it's a miracle. Oh my goodness. Heinzel, you're just the sweetest little man. So if you're jumping on live, say hi as always. If you're catching the replay or you're on YouTube or wherever else I decide to post this after I've done it live, then say hello. And I love to read the comments, whether it's during or after. So play with me. Hi Sue, you're back for more. Hey Becca, yeah girl. So tell me, was there something specific about this topic that drew you here, or are you like, Georgina's doing a live stream, I'll go and see what she's riffing on about today? Or was there something specific about the topic of life in the projection field that just really spoke to you? Tell me. And we'll give people a minute to join us. Which is great, because if you're watching the replay, you can just kind of skim through this bit, can't you, until you see me start wildly waving my hands around, and then you'll know I've started the content of the live stream. My hair is crazy today. I feel like we always have to have a little hair check-in at the beginning, because I trained last night, so I sweated on it, and now it's enormous. And it's like, well, I'm training again tonight, so there's not really much point in doing anything with it. Fuck it. You get what you get. No airs and graces over here. Yeah, that's interesting actually, Becca. Because we're not specifically talking about the 4 line today or the 6. However, mainly the things I will be speaking to are being a projector, so literally being in the projection field, 5 lines and 2 lines. But that said, we all live within our own projections of who we are and who other people are and who other people think we should be, right? So we all deal with projections. But in terms of human design, the pieces that I'll refer to, there'll be universal things, of course, as there always are when I speak, just all the things come out. But in terms of the human design pieces, the things I'll specifically be referring to are those. And of course, when you come and work with me one-to-one, we can go all the way into your profile. Just sending that out into the universe. We both know it's happening. Listening to talk about anything is always enlightening. Right. We're living that humid life, my friend. So let's get a crack-a-lackin'. So I would love to know, for anyone watching live or on the replay, what is your human design? So your type, which will either be projector, manifestor, reflector, generator, or manifesting generator, and your profile, which are the 2 numbers. So for me, I'm a manifesting generator. My profile is a 6-2, and my authority is sacral. So those 3 pieces of information, pop them in the comments, and then if anything specific comes through for those types, I will relay it. I'm going to actually read you some pieces that dropped in for me during my journaling and my meditation this morning, because that's what spurred me on to do this live stream in the first place. And I've really been noticing that the more I distill what I have learnt I just literally just recorded a podcast about some of these things, so I'm not going to go too much into that because I've done a whole podcast on it that's coming out on Monday. So like and subscribe because that'll be coming out. But for today, for this particular topic, the relevance is my distillation process and my discernment over which spiritual teachings, or like, I just don't read self-development books anymore. I don't even recommend them to people necessarily. Like, if people really want to read a book, I can tell them one, but I'm not interested in, like, yeah, I've read a lot of self-development books. I've read a lot of spiritual books. Like, I've done a lot of courses. I've traveled to various places all over the world to learn modalities, maps, done retreats on things. I've journeyed the inner depths of myself. And for me, what I'm noticing at the moment is the closer I come to me and the essence of who I am, when I allow that internal frequency, my inner knowing, my me-ness, to be the guiding light for what I decide to do, for how I speak, for how I show up, for how I respond, the more that I allow that and my connection to that, the more I prioritize my connection to myself and my core, not just like my core like abs, like the core essence of who I am, the more I prioritize making time and being intentional about that, the more I'm able to be discerning about when I feel someone else is projecting onto me. And I've also started to notice where I've unconsciously allowed someone's projection to guide how I speak to them or how I show up in relationship with them. And it's, for me currently, it's the noticing that is happening, and then getting to be like, oh, I see that when people think I'm like quote unquote compassionate, they feel safe with me and they trust me. So it's important, you know, this is the inner workings, right? All subconscious, that they're just showing themselves to me more and more recently. It's important for people to think that. And so therefore, unconsciously, I perpetuate that through how I show up in certain environments. But it's impossible to maintain a mask of compassion when that is not all that I am. I'm a fucking asshole sometimes. If you see me in my car and you see cyclists cycling next to each other, taking up the width of a motherfucking car, but going way slower and I can't get past them, you're gonna see the fucking asshole, right? That asshole is coming out. I'm gonna be fucking enraged. Like, get the fuck out of my way. So it's just interesting to me recently to notice how in certain contexts and relationships, and it's not a conscious thing, I don't do this consciously, and that's why it's so important, because the idea of the projection field, and when we are receiving other people's projections or living into other people, what we are projecting onto other people, we do that, right? We project onto other people what we think they need from us, and then we live into that, and they're like, I never asked that, I don't need that from you, but we've like created this internal expectation and projection, and we're kind of living it out, and it's like, oh, no wonder people don't know who the fuck they are. No wonder people don't know who the fuck they are, because they're spending all their time like creating imaginary feedback from the projection field. And actually, when you come back to who you are and you prioritize and spend more of your time, energy, and focus on connection with yourself first, you become more and more grounded. And again, I talk about this a lot with various concepts, right? But it's like the muscle over here is real strong. The muscle of projecting what we think other people need from us or whatever. You know, we're really good at doing that. Like, that muscle is strong, and we've lived that mask and that false reality, that shadow life and like half life, if you will, for maybe our entire life so far. And then we start doing all this inner work, we start revealing ourselves to ourselves, we start deepening the connection to self on a daily basis, becoming more and more intentional about being our authentic self, or whatever that means, but like really coming back to the soul, like the thread inside of us that is purely speaking truth to us about who we are. Yum. When we come back to that every day, more and more throughout the day, we begin to realize that, well, not realize, but we begin to have more of those moments where we see ourselves and we catch ourselves in an old pattern of living into a projection. You hear me? Give me some comments so I know you're following. So the reason that I even mentioned the human design piece, though, it's as relevant as you want it to be, okay? It's as relevant as you want it to be. If this message resonates with you, great. Who gives a fuck what your human design is, really? Okay? But when I was speaking to, like, the fact I can speak to being a 6/2, I can speak to being a manifesting generator, I can speak to my personal lived experience of how it feels to be in that 2 line and have people project things upon me. And I think what it is about being a 5 or a 2 is, I can really only speak to being a 2. What it feels like to me, and regardless of your human design, if this resonates, just receive it. For me, what it feels like sometimes is I've unconsciously just followed the weaving wave of the energy that I've received from other people, and I've like let my communication and my relationship with them kind of be guided and dictated by that. Rarely checking in with, does this relationship still align for me? Do I still feel good about how this relationship is playing out? Do I feel safe to be all of me? Because I very often, again, speaking personally for myself, and you may resonate, I personally hold a lot of space that is judgment free, so people can just bring all of themselves and know that whatever they share with me, there's no judgment. And so they tend to feel quite safe, even though it can be scary to come and work with me, because there's going to be big things revealed and life's going to change, and it can feel scary at first. Once people start to get into the groove of working with me, they tend to feel quite safe with me. And I think what I'm beginning to understand is, even as a coach, a mentor, an energy worker, whatever you want to call me, it's equally as important for me to feel safe with them. And what I mean by that is the clients with whom I have the most delicious, expansive, heart-opening, beautiful relationships where both of our lives transform, really, are the people who are so open and receptive and trusting and willing to receive my transmission however it comes out. Because sometimes the words that I speak are going to feel so compassionate and soft and loving and nurturing and warm. And other times they're going to feel like you've been punched in the face, because I can be blunt as fuck. So if someone is projecting upon me that they need me to always be compassionate or always be soft or always be loving, or on the other side, what if people always, my perception, need me to be strong and powerful, and then what happens when I'm not? What if people need me to be like completely infallible and like almost like not human, right? And be so fucking in charge of my shit and trigger free and perfect that if I'm triggered in their presence, like suddenly the whole illusion of who they think I am is shattered. How does that feel to me? To allow myself to have relationships, whether in or outside of my business, you know, my romantic life, my personal life, all areas. But remember that this all starts with our relationship with ourselves. So if I feel like it's only safe, or I'm only going to be accepted in my quote unquote perfect form, then I'm only ever really gonna, if I'm triggered or if I'm upset or I'm feeling like I need help or I could do with some support or some advice or guidance or just some love, I'm not gonna ask for it, because that would make me look weak or vulnerable. But really, weak was the one that came up. It's like, oh, I don't want people to think I'm weak. Why is that? And I dug in and I was like, it's because I want people to think I'm strong. Well, why? Because I want them to feel safe. Because I want them to transform. When people come to work with me, I want them to get the results that they want and more. I want them to witness themselves in the just pure perfection of all that they could be on this planet, flaws and all. I want them to fall so deeply in love with the shadowy, dark, sticky, tarry, like what they feel like yucky parts of themselves, and integrate them and use them as their superpowers just as much as they do with their like shiny, lovely qualities that they're totally at home with. I want people to transform when they work with me. And I've created a story, true or not, I don't know whether it's true, who knows, maybe it's true for some and not for others, that in order for that to happen, I put a lot of pressure on myself, or have done, and learning not to, right? Always learning. I have put a lot of pressure on myself to ensure that that person feels safe in my presence. And sometimes that has meant that I have softened or tempered down the way in which I deliver something, because I desire to be received. I desire for the wisdom, the transformation, the truths that want to come through me for that person. I want them to be received fully so that that person can go and transform. And it's not from a place of ego. It's not from a place of, and then they'll think I'm amazing. It's like, it's literally just, that is what I love. I just love to help people catalyze that part of themselves that brings them online, makes them feel joyful, brings the lightness back to their life. Has that, like, someone reflected to me this week that after a session with me, they felt like just more light and playful, and like life just felt more fun. And I was like, yay! Like, I even feel it now. Like, even thinking about having that reflected back to me, I was just like, that felt so good to know that the work we did together has changed them, has helped them to see something that once felt so fucking heavy as now something that they can view with lightness and playfulness, and have this whole new way of seeing it. And because of changing how they view that, their whole life will change as a result. That's fucking cool. And that's what I get to do for a living. And it makes me feel emotional because it is so incredible that that is what I get to do. But it's also incredible for them to receive, right? So if I'm feeling like the 2 line, if you are a human design person, I'm not a human design. I do not consider myself a human design expert or teacher. I just want to lay that out there. All I know is my lived experience and witnessing my clients with various pieces over the years of like, oh, okay, yeah, that does seem to be like quite consistently a manifestor thing. Like, that's interesting. But I will never pigeonhole someone and be like, oh, well, you're a manifestor, so that means that you must always do this. If it helps bring them back to who they are and it helps them feel confident and clear and like excited about their fucking life, then take it and run with it. But whenever we begin to over-identify with anything, it has its flaws. It has its drawbacks. So it's also about knowing who we are. Again, that thread within us that is always speaking to us the truth about who we are. That is the voice we want to listen to. So when I think about the two line, I never used to really understand when people would say the two line in human design kind of casts its aura out into the projection field, out into the world, and it kind of gathers projections. So it's almost like, and I'm also a fire constitutional factor in 5-element theory, which means like my whole, like the core question is, who am I? So the irony, you know, everything ties together, doesn't it? But the idea that I used to think like, I don't like that idea. I don't like the idea that I have to like cast this net out, or that I unconsciously cast this net out, gather in all these projections, and then what do I do with them? Like I just have to be who everyone wants me to be, or uphold these fucking projections. Like that felt gross. And then when I realized the way to work with that, and I guess this is true for anyone, is to understand, is to kind of have that level of detachment and just like, if a projection feels true, feels good, like, yeah, that I feel seen, yes, that is a deep part of me, great, receive it. But if there is a projection on you that doesn't feel true, you don't have to keep it. Now, bear in mind that some projections that you receive will feel true, but they won't feel nice either. Because sometimes you'll receive a projection and it is a piece of you that you know exists, but you don't really want to look at and you haven't accepted yet. And then that's when we take you into the realm of like integrating the shadow, right? We take you into the realm of, okay, so now you've seen a part of yourself that is, it is yours, that it does belong to you, it is a truth for you, it is a thread of who you are. Let's help you see that part of yourself in a new way so that you can fall back in love with it, shake its hand, make friends with it, understand its superpower, integrate it into your life, and walk forward as a more integrated human. More resilience, yeah? More self-love, more self-acceptance, a bit less being triggered by projections. Because the more we use that filtration system on the projections we receive, the more we receive the projections openly, check in with our inner authority. So for me, that would be my sacral, right? So someone might project to me, oh, you're just so, I don't know, I don't fucking know. Someone might say like, oh, you're just so intelligent. And I'd be like, okay, I don't know if that feels true or not really, but okay, I don't even have to do anything with it. Don't have to do anything with it. If I have no response in my body about it, like, okay, I can be neutral. I don't have to have a response to every single fucking projection someone throws at me. So some of them will ring true and it will feel good. Some will ring true and it will feel bad, and then we go and do the integration. But anytime we cling too much to what's being projected onto us, more than that thread that speaks the truth of who we are, that lives inside of us, anytime we prioritize that over this, we're leaning outside of our alignment. We're leaning outside of our own personal integrity. Is this resonating? Give me some feedback. Give me something to respond to. Perfect, Sue. So even if you're not into human design and you're like, that's jargon, I don't understand it, the concepts around projection still relevant. We all receive projections. And one of the biggest things that prevents people from growing their business, for example, or truly owning their authentic expression and how they show up in their artwork or in their social media content or even in their coaching lives, like in their relationships with their clients, is this. It's the fear of receiving negative projection. It's the fear of people seeing like the shadowy parts of us that we have not yet reconciled. But what if instead of feeling those things like slicing daggers and like, oh God, I've been seen, now I have to hide. What if you went, I've been seen and I'm still alive. and I'm still safe and I'm okay. Great. And then, you know, obviously with my clients, we work through the triggers and we have specific methods to integrate. Good. I'm glad this is landing for you guys. So let me just feel if there's anything. If you have specific questions about anything I've shared, please drop them in the comments. And let me just feel into also if there's anything that I wanted to share with you, some pieces that I wrote in my journal specifically about this today, things that came up for me. So I put here that sometimes there's like a trap of others seeing us and it feeling good. You know, like if what people see in us feels good and we rely on their projection of us to uphold a certain vision. So for example, say for example, my personal trainer was like, oh, you're this, you know, you're really strong, you're really powerful, you're so fit, you know, like, yeah, you're really, you know, if I was receiving that kind of feedback consistently, like all the time from my trainer, then I would be like, I have two ways to receive that. I have many ways, but two of the ways that I might receive it would be, wow, thank you, that feels really good. And receive it, still feel good about it, you know, why not? Like, let yourself feel as good as you fucking can in life, am I right? But then just receive it and just let it be what it is, versus receiving it and then being like, I now need that because I don't believe it about myself, but I want to believe it about myself. So now I need to continually pay you so that you will reflect that back to me, because otherwise that whole illusion of myself that is purely held in place by your opinion of me will shatter. And the fascinating thing about that is you won't always know it's happening until that. I've had this happen to me so many times in the past where I have not realized the way that someone else sees me is so potent and activating. And that's not a bad thing, right? That is not a bad thing in itself. When it becomes tricky for me personally is when I then have attached my worth to their words and how they see me, because then if they change their mind or they have a bad day or I don't get what I quote unquote need from them to fuel up my self-belief, then it all just crumbles. And I, you know, and then there's that neediness, like, oh, but I, you know, and like, how can I please you so that you see me the way that you used to see me? Like, that feels like it's quite powerful. I feel like that's gonna land with in someone's gut and they're gonna be like, ugh, gross, yes, that's me, fuck you for seeing that. But I've definitely, like, I've experienced that. So this is not me even, you know, I hope that resonates powerfully with some of you, all of you, if, you know, if possible. But that's me speaking from personal experience. I've had relationships in the past where that has been the case. And when that person had a bad day or looked at me a certain way, I'd be like, oh, like I'd feel the energy had shifted. I wasn't able to maintain my own sovereignty about how I feel about myself, because without realizing, I'd fucking outsourced how I see myself to that person. Like, that's fucked up. But we do it, like, and it's not a conscious thing. So it's not like, oh, you should be beating yourself up about it. It's like, again, the more you tune in and trust that thread of that whisper that speaks the truth about you to you from deep inside, the more that you trust that little whisper, the louder it gets, the more ingrained it gets, the more grounded you get in that truth about yourself, and the less shakeable you are from any external sources. So sure, receive delicious compliments and lovely things that people say and let it like set you alight. Why the fuck not? Feel good, bitch. You know? And when it becomes a little bit like toxic is when we begin to fully outsource how we see ourselves based on someone else's projection or reflections. What else did I write about this? I had an experience recently where I literally thought in my mind, like, I was just being truthful and I just coming from like a pure place of like speaking truth, and I felt like, ooh, this is how I became aware recently of maybe a little thread of that playing in again, like a little thread of that kind of playing out, not in an intense way, just in a kind of a, oh, that's an interesting thing to witness about myself, right? Which is why I'm sharing all this with you today. But I noticed recently, like I said something and I felt like, not even from external, from within, I felt, oh no, I think I just rubbed up against the projection of who you think I am. I think I just create friction against that, and that might make you question things about me. And that I could feel that the trigger in me, I could feel like, oh shit, I might have just destroyed an illusion that was necessary for you to maintain in order to love me. Yeah, I mean, that's fucking profound shit. So I hope you guys are receiving this. Like, that's profound motherfucking shit right there. And when you get to the point of being able to spot those things, where you're literally like, I think I rubbed up against a projection that person has on me. And if that's true, the feeling I had in me was literally like, I wonder if I've now shattered the illusion that they were holding. And there can also be a sense, I don't know if any of you have ever felt this, like, does anyone really know who I am truly? But the only person that needs to know you is you. And even then, we are always unraveling that. There's, I've started looking into, I think they're called Zen koans. I think that's how you say it. And I'm paraphrasing, so please don't come at me if I get this wrong. But one of them is something along the lines of, show me your face, the one you had before your parents were born, or the one you had before your mother or father were born. Right? Which, like, when I read it, I was like, like my heart went, or like my solar plexus really, it was like, you need to like feel into and like let that concept of that Zen koan, you need to let that vibrate through the cells of your body, Georgina. There's a truth in here for you. Is how it felt like. And I don't consciously understand it. And what I mean by that is I can't explain in words why it resonated or what it meant to me or what it made me reflect on. I just read the words and something happened in my body that was like, this is a truth, and now you know this truth. It was so abstract. Welcome to my life. I go from like being just like grunting, sweating, fucking swearing, hitting shit in the gym, like visceral grunt rage, like so human and like primal, to being like so abstract, fucking esoteric, you know, like there's a plethora of things. I am many different shades. I'm a kaleidoscopic being, as are all of you. And I think sometimes when we run an online business as well, it can feel a bit like, particularly the kind of business I'm in, and the way that I desire to, you know, quote unquote market, if you can even call it that, myself, is to just be really fucking honest about who I am in any given moment. So like yesterday, the texture, the taste, the frequency of the live stream I delivered in here was probably different to the one that I do today. When I did Self-Belief Bootcamp, had a very different texture and frequency to when I record my podcast or delivering content in the collective. To each person that I speak to, there'll be similarities in the way, the textures in which I speak to people in their inner children in sessions. However, there's also a difference in frequency because I'm a different person. You know, I'm not a different person, but I am many different things. And when we are in this industry, sometimes there can be this like perception that we have to be authentic. And it's like, what does that even me. So I don't even worry about the label. Fucking authentic. And people say, oh, you're so authentic. I'm like, am I? I don't fucking know. I just show up as me, whoever I am in that moment. And authentic is going to look different to everybody. I was talking to someone in the EFT training about this. Like, my authenticity is that sometimes I'm a performer and that feels really good and that's who I am. Sometimes I'm much more like in the reverence of the energy, and I'm, you know, I'm more earnest and I'm more serious and calm and grounded and intense. But it's all me. And there can be this pressure sometimes, I feel like maybe, you know, maybe that's just a pressure that I felt to kind of almost like define and section out each piece and each thread of who I am, like isolate each piece, like it's, you know, like in a fucking rainbow, like this is this color and it is happy Georgina, and this is this color and it is serious Georgina, and this is this color, it's the deep poet Georgina. Fuck that shit. So where I am right now is in this phase of deepening even more into the acceptance of all the different threads of who I am without needing to define myself over and over again, and just being okay with whoever I am on the fucking day, because it's only through that self-acceptance of all of those different threads of who I am and giving them equal kind of airtime for myself, like letting them out when they want to be out. It's only through doing that and my acceptance and love of all of those different parts of myself that I'm ever truly going to feel accepted or like I belong anywhere. Because it all starts with us, right? No problem, Becca. I'm glad that that landed for you. Yay. I'm just going to see if there's anything else that I wanted to share. So I felt like this was this just kind of streamed out of me today. So I'm just going to read it to you, just like a few lines. But bearing in mind that we all have relationships, we all consume various forms of media, and even if you are someone who's like, I don't have any relationships, I'm isolated, I never see anyone, at some point you probably talk to a delivery man or like a customer services person, or go to the shop and have an interaction with, you know, bumping into someone or whatever, right? So right now this is an interaction, okay? So everyone has interactions, relationships in their life, and so we all have projections projected upon us and project onto other people, as I said at the beginning. So we're kind of bombarded with that. There's like a lot of that. And unless you're a little hermit face like me, and you spend a lot of time alone just with your little sausage dog, then it can be very hard to train yourself and to be disciplined about training yourself to come back once again to the thread that lives inside you, that speaks truth to you about you. So I just put here, how willing are you to devote time and energy to reconnecting and grounding in you above and beyond everything? Above and beyond the noise, the excuses, the versions of you that up to now were on some level unconsciously absorbed and assumed projections from other people. Because the more we peel back the layers, the more deconditioning we do. It's almost like I see it like little threads of energy that we just kind of go, and we just kind of remove them, pull them from the body, let them dissolve, let them leave. We remove them as we go through the deconditioning processes that I do with people in my work. And we're left with more and more space that gets filled by us. So it's like, if I remove this projection and there's a space, am I going to allow someone else's projection to fill that hole? Or am I going to take some time and energy and intention and just let myself fill that hole. You know? That's where the magic is. So there you go. That's my riff for you today. So much of my work now is just about bringing, I mean, it always has been, but even more so now, like more intentionally, it's less even about teaching people the tools and more about, like, that was very much where I felt like the first parts of my business were, that's what felt exciting and aligned, and that was what was right for the time. It's like, teach people the tools to bring themselves back to themselves. And though there is a little bit of that in what I do, it's even more now about going, okay, so that's the tools and we needed to know the tools and whatever, but now can you just choose in this moment to come back to you over and over again? It is actually the simplest action, but sometimes one of the most difficult things, because the human mind wants us to believe it's so complicated. And it's like, how easy are you willing to let life be? How joyful and playful and delicious are you willing to let your life be? How much are you willing to expand from a place of, this is me? That's easy, isn't it? Because you are you. It's so fucking easy. But we want it to be more complicated because we've been taught it has to be more complicated, because then we're easier to control. People can keep feeding us bullshit information. But really, the magic is in, come back to yourself, and once again, always coming back to the thread that speaks and whispers ever so quietly sometimes, and sometimes it fucking screams at you from the inside, and it is speaking the truth to you about who you are. And that, if you cultivate more time, if you spend less time seeking external validation and recognition and another method, another modality, another book, another podcast, another TV show, whatever it is that you're watching to help you feel like some semblance of, I know who I am, or I feel alive, or I'm living, you know, but it's not real, it's not sustainable, it's not in-sourced, it's outsourced. When we start in-sourcing that, it takes dedication, it takes time and commitment, because though it's the easiest step, it can be one of the trickiest things, because we've spent pretty much our entire lives up until that realization moment where we go, oh fuck, that's what I need to be doing, is insourcing, not outsourcing. We've spent all of our lives up to that moment living in the opposite rhythm. And even if that rhythm didn't feel good, we still committed to grinding and grounding and reinforcing it in our bodies and in our beings and in our minds. Like, it's in our bodies, it's viscerally in us. So it's like a detoxing process that I take people through these days, where it's literally just like gently stripping away and dissolving the old patterns, the old ways that you used to see yourself, the old projections that you took on that no longer fit you, but for some reason you don't feel safe unless you're playing into someone else's version of who they think you should be, or playing into a version of you that you think helps people feel safe around you because you're too, you know, mercurial and chaotic and playful and vibrant and zingy, like whatever, or too intense and serious and deep, whatever it is that you think you're too much of. You're probably dimming that down so that other people feel safe around you, so that you can feel safe, that you're not going to be left, that you're not going to be abandoned or rejected. But in doing that, you are abandoning and rejecting yourself, and that is the most painful thing that we can do. Less self-abandonment, more self-acceptance, more shadow integration, more self-love, more fucking playfulness and fun. That is the vibe. So if you feel like you want to come and work with me and activate some of that shit in your life, hit me up, baby. Let's see what is a fit for you. Thank you so much for watching. As always, you know, comment if you rewatch, if you're watching on the replay, let me know how you went. And I always like to just ask at the end of these live streams, what is the main piece that you have received? What is something that you have received that you can now digest and actually move forward with that new wisdom activated in your body for the rest of the day, if not the rest of your life? What was that? Drop it in the comments below and I will come back and read them. And for now, thank you so much, and let's see when I feel inspired to share again. Big love to you all.